I was just moving out, but the HOA president called 911 like I was a criminal. 5 police cars screamed into my driveway, and she had no idea her entire world was about to collapse. Imagine this: 5 police cars, lights flashing, sirens blaring, neighbors peeking out of windows, all because the HOA president decided to treat me like a criminal for moving my own things. Karen thought she could intimidate me, control the street, and stop my plans. Until she realized I had already bought every property on the block. Her reign of power ended in an instant, her arrogance shattered, and her meltdown became the talk of the neighborhood. What she didn't know, this was only the beginning of her total defeat. It should have been a simple day. The sun had just begun. Boxes were stacked neatly beside the truck, furniture carefully wrapped, and my hands were steady despite the chaos that had been weeks in the making. Today was the day I reclaimed my freedom. Then I saw her, Karen, the HOA president. Her presence was impossible to ignore. Clipboard in hand, fingers gripping it like it was a weapon, face red with anger, veins bulging in her neck, eyes locked onto me with pure, unrelenting fury. Karen, you can't do this. You're breaking HOA rules. Me, no, Karen, I'm moving out. That's all. She didn't blink. She didn't waver. Instead, she dialed something on her phone, muttering under her breath. I knew instantly. She was calling the cops. Within minutes, the wail of sirens shattered the calm morning. 5 police cars barreled down the street, tires screeching, lights flashing. Officers jumped out, hands hovering near their belts, scanning my property with suspicion. Officer 1, sir, what's going on here? Me, nothing. I'm moving my belongings. She called you for no reason. Karen's jaw tightened. Her plan was failing already, but she didn't know what was coming next. I took a deep breath, keeping calm as she waved her clipboard frantically. Me, oh, and by the way, I bought the entire block last week. Every property here is legally mine. Her face froze. Officers glanced at each other, unsure if they were hearing correctly. Karen's authority, the one she wielded with fear, intimidation, and petty rules, was crumbling before her eyes. I could see the neighborhood stirring. Windows cracked open. Phones emerged. Curious neighbors whispered to each other, drawn to the spectacle like moths to a flame. Children peeked from behind fences, wide-eyed. Karen's face, once a mask of power, now betrayed panic. She stomped forward, trying to block my path to the truck. I stepped aside, calm and deliberate, like a predator who knew the entire terrain. Karen, you can't. You have to follow the HOA rules. Me, every deed, every signature, verified. You no longer have authority here. Step back. The officers hesitated. This wasn't a disturbance caused by me. It was Karen's unraveling meltdown, a woman realizing her reign of control had ended. Neighbors began recording, whispering encouragement, as if collectively witnessing a tyrant's empire collapse. Karen lunged again toward the truck, but I was prepared. A simple hand gesture stopped her in her tracks, the weight of legality and certainty behind it. Me, this is my property now. You have no right to interfere. Karen's legs trembled. Her shoulders slumped. The realization hit her fully. She could scream, threaten, and wave her clipboard as much as she wanted. But she had no leverage, no control, and no way to stop what was happening. I looked around at the street, the witnesses, the police officers slowly understanding the situation. The tension was electric. Karen had underestimated patience, knowledge, and the quiet power of preparation. She had treated fear like authority, and fear, I would show, is fragile. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Karen's voice cracked. Karen, that's impossible. Me, nothing impossible about the law. Every property on this block, every inch, is mine now. You can't stop me. The morning sun reflected off the moving truck, off the boxes, and off my calm resolve. Karen's empire, built on petty rules and intimidation, was crumbling before the eyes of everyone who had ever witnessed her tyranny. This was just the beginning, but the victory of the first step, showing that fear could not control me, was sweet. The rest of the street would see exactly what happens when someone underestimates preparation, patience, and knowing your rights. The moment I stepped past the first row of boxes, I could feel the tension thickening. Karen's eyes darted between the truck, the moving boxes, and the growing crowd of neighbors. Her breath came fast, uneven, as if the air itself had betrayed her. Karen, you can't just take everything, this street, these houses. They're under HOA rules. Me, rules only matter if you have authority. You don't, not anymore. Her hands shook violently as she tried to wave her clipboard at the officers, but it looked feeble, almost comical. The neighbors whispered among themselves, some holding back laughter, others simply why. Died at the spectacle. Karen had always thrived on appearances, on control. Today, that facade was shattered. The officers looked uncomfortable, caught between the HOA demands and the law. I had every deed, every signature, and every legal document neatly in a folder inside my truck. One glance at it was enough to silence even the most skeptical officer. Officer 1, ma'am, we can't enforce rules on property you legally own. Karen's face paled. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. No words came out. The crowd's murmurs grew louder. Phones clicked, capturing every frame. Karen realized she was not just losing authority. She was losing credibility. Every neighbor who had once obeyed her petty commands now saw her for what she was. A powerless tyrant clinging to a clipboard. Karen, I can't believe this. You can't. Me believe it. Every property here, every inch of this street is mine. You have no say. Step back. She lunged forward, desperate, trying to regain control, but the officers stepped between her and the truck. Her hands flailed. Her voice rose, but it was a hollow sound. The strength had left her. Meanwhile, I calmly directed the movers, my family helping with boxes, each step deliberate. Every movement was a statement: control, authority, and calm resolve. The air smelled of dust and sunlight, mixed with adrenaline. Karen glanced at the neighboring homes, the very houses she thought she ruled. And there it was, the realization that all her fear-driven control was gone. She was powerless. Her empire, built on intimidation, crumbled quietly but completely. The crowd cheered quietly. Some clapped. Others simply watched in awe. Karen's body language screamed defeat. She had lost without a single physical altercation. Her reign was over. Me, this isn't personal. It's about legality, preparation, and respect. Something you never understood. Karen's arms dropped. Her clipboard hit the pavement with a thud that sounded louder than her shouting ever could. Neighbors recorded the moment, ensuring her humiliation was preserved for posterity. For the first time, I felt a calm smile creep across my face. The tension that had been building for months, the uncertainty, the threats, the petty games, began to release like air from a tire. Today, authority and law had prevailed over intimidation and arrogance. As the moving truck rolled down the street, I glanced at Karen one last time. She stood frozen, staring after me like a defeated general watching an army march away victorious. And I knew in that moment that this street, this block, and every house on it would never again be ruled by fear. The sun was high now, casting harsh light across the street, glinting off the moving truck and the polished surfaces of the houses I now legally owned. The air was thick with the hum of activity. Neighbors still peeking from windows, some whispering, others snapping photos, all captivated by the final act of a saga they had been watching unfold. Karen stood frozen near her own property, clipboard abandoned on the lawn. Her face was pale, lips pressed thin in silent rage. She had gone from a figure of intimidation to a bystander, powerless to stop the inevitable. Me, step back, Karen. Everything here is legally mine. Your authority ends now. Her hands trembled, fingers curling uselessly at her sides. I could see her mind racing, trying desperately to construct a plan, a way to reverse the outcome, to regain control. But the law, preparation, and patience had already claimed victory. The moving truck rolled smoothly down the street, boxes being carefully unloaded into the houses that were now under my name. I watched as my family carried the heaviest items, laughing quietly to keep spirits high. Each step forward was a statement: control, calm, and certainty. Karen finally spoke, voice shaking, almost a whisper. Karen, this can't be real. Me, it is real. Every deed verified, every signature in order. You can no longer call the shots, and that's the difference between fear and authority. You can bluff all you want, but the law always wins. Officers, who had been silent witnesses, now nodded subtly. Some whispered among themselves about the unusual turn of events. The neighbors, previously intimidated by Karen's relentless control, now peeked openly, smiling or shaking their heads in disbelief. I walked slowly down the street, taking in the properties I had just legally acquired. Every home, every lot, every inch of this block now bore my legal stamp, and more than that, it bore the triumph of patience, preparation, and strategic thinking. Karen's attempts at intimidation had failed utterly. I paused at the center of the street, looking at her one last time. There was no need for threats, no need for confrontation. The quiet, undeniable weight of legality and proper planning had spoken for itself. Me, you've lost, not because of force, not because of shouting, but because the truth and preparation always win. Karen's shoulders slumped. She muttered something unintelligible and turned to retreat. Her empire, built on fear, gossip, and petty rules, had vanished in the sunlight. Neighbors quietly applauded, capturing the moment on phone cameras. Social media would remember this day, her downfall, my victory. As the moving trucks disappeared down the block and my family settled into our new legal holdings, I took a deep breath. Freedom, respect, and authority are never given. They are earned, defended, and sometimes spectacularly reclaimed. That day was not just about reclaiming property. It was about showing the difference between fear and preparation, between intimidation and law, between chaos and calm resolve. Standing in the middle of the street, with the sun reflecting off the rooftops, I finally understood. Control is not about making people afraid. Control is about knowing your rights, standing firm, and letting actions speak louder than words. And Karen, she would never forget it. The day she called the cops, the day she tried to block me, the day she underestimated me, was the day her power evaporated. Every home I now owned, every deed in my hand, every neighbor witnessing this victory, it was all proof. The street, the block, and the entire neighborhood had been flipped, and it had been done quietly, legally, but utterly irrevocably. As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light over the block, I smiled. Not with arrogance, but with calm satisfaction. Some battles are fought with patience, some with law, some with preparation, and the battles worth winning, they leave no doubt about who holds power. Freedom had a taste sweeter than victory. Authority had a weight more satisfying than fear, and the street, once ruled by intimidation, would never again see Karen's tyranny.